welcome to episode 11 of Petey's awesome guest panel. My guest at this time is a very legendary man, if I say so myself. Like, you may have known him in Mad Max 2 as Wes. You will know him as Bennett in Commandos. Or if you're a Power Ranger fan like myself, you know him as the evil, diabolical powerhouse warrior Rancic in Power Rangers Time Force. My guest at this time is the legendary Vernon Wells. Vernon, welcome, sir.
Well, thank you, Peter. It's really a pleasure to be here.
Oh, it's a pleasure having you. Like, I'm a huge fan of your work. The Mad Max series. Even like you were part of my favorite movie, like one of my favorite animated movies of all time, the Drawn Together movie, where you were the main boss in the movie, Scott, the angry director.
Yep, that was kind of fun. I got asked to do that by the producers, and I really had no idea what I was going to be doing. And they said that it would, because I do a lot of voiceovers for games and things. So that was really my first film that I'd done voiceover on. And the film itself is hysterical. I mean, I love the film. I had watched, the funny thing was I used to go onto Cartoon Network at 12 o'clock on, I believe, Friday night or Saturday night and watch it. They had the Drawn Together Gang, which was a half-hour animated series on Cartoon Network. And I used to watch it. And then when I got asked to actually play the boss in the film, I was like, oh, this is just too cool. So I had a lot of fun.
Awesome. And before we get to the Power Ranger questions that I have, I first want to ask, it's a typical cliche question, but I definitely want to ask it. And that is, how did you get started in acting?
It was kind of by accident, more than anything. I never grew up wanting to be an actor. It was not one of those things where a lot of people who were actors, you know, they said they grew up and from the time they could walk, they wanted to be an actor, and so they pursued it. I grew up on a farm in central Victoria in Australia, and with my grandfather. And the only thing that I had was every morning before I went to work, to school, there was these serials. They would have these 10-minute serials like Biggles and Superman and Batman on the radio. I used to listen to that. So that was kind of my enjoyment in that respect. But as I grew older, I moved back down to Melbourne to be with my mother. And she was a reasonably successful songwriter. She wrote country and western songs, and she'd had some of them out on record and things. So, and I always loved singing and loved being around music. So what I did was that I moved into working with bands, and that's where I thought I would be. I was going to be a band singer and, you know, work in rock and roll bands, and that was it. You know, drugs, sex, rock and roll, that was me. And then I got badly hurt in an accident with the band vehicle, had my back crushed, and so I couldn't work with the group because I was unable to stand up or walk for about 6 months. And as I got better, our manager got sick of me being a pain in his rear end, so he took my photograph around to some of the modeling agencies in Melbourne, and one of them was trying to cast a series of cigarette commercials. And they wanted to know if I could ride horses, if I could ride motorbikes, if I could drive cars, all this stuff, which of course I could. And I got hired to do that. And that's where it all started. I moved on from there into doing little bits on television, nothing dramatic, just, you know, extras and one line, whatever. And then I got asked to do a stage play called Hosanna, which was written by Michel Tremblay, a Canadian playwright. And while I was doing that, George Miller's girlfriend, Sandy Gore, saw a performance and got George to come down and see me because she's figured that I was perfect for the role of Wes in Road Warrior, which they were trying to find someone to fit the role. So George and I got together, and as they say, the rest is history. That's where it all started.
Ah, very cool. Any memories of working on Commando as Bennett?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, actually. I guess my fondest memory was that that Arnold wasn't sure whether I would fit the role because I'm very quiet when I'm on set. You know, I'm not noisy. I'm very into what I'm doing. And he kind of thought maybe I was a little bit too laid back, that it wouldn't work out. And the first scene, I was in Australia and I was brought to America because originally I wasn't cast in the film. I had met with the director when I was over shooting Weird Science. And he had said no, he didn't want me. He had another actor in mind, which was fine. I went back to Australia. I was happy. And something went wrong within what they were doing. And I got a phone call from Joel Silver telling me that they wanted me to fly back to Los Angeles because I was going to do the film. The film had already been in production, so I was kind of coming in after they'd started filming. And the first scene that I did, if you know the film, was the one where I have the knife at Arnold's throat when he's tied to the table, and I tell him that I want to cut his throat. That was the first thing I did. And after I did that scene with him, Joel Silver said to him, well, what do you think? Shall we keep him? And he went, I only have one thing to say, never give him a real knife. So he was like, it was kind of funny. And then we got on from then. We got on like a house on fire. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed working with both him and Mel. They're both like big kids in a candy shop. They are hysterical to work with. Steven Spielberg was the same when I worked with him. They're like big kids, you know, they're so much fun to work with. And I love being with people like that.
Awesome. And now you mentioned you've done voiceover before. Is there any difference like when you do voiceover and like the live action acting like and voiceover?
Yeah, voiceover, you have nothing to act to. In acting, I mean, you've got the other people in the scene, the other people on the set to work with. But when you're doing a voiceover, the only thing you've got is the director in the sound booth in your ear in a headset saying, okay, Vernon, give me 3 versions of this line. Yeah, and that's how you do it. You do 3 different ways each line that you go through. When I was doing Drawn Together, they would play the other characters, and it was just hysterical because I was virtually on the floor most of the time laughing from the 2 of them because it was 2 directors being total idiots in the control booth. But normally it's very sort of professional when they're like, this is what we want to do, 3 versions of this, and okay, now on that other line, can you do it this way? And you're directed by the director because you have nothing to look at except a blank wall.
Ah, I see. And like, well, is it like similar when you do video game work? Because you were in 2 Darksider video games.
Yeah, they're all the same. But in Darksiders, the original one that I did them with Keith Harem, who's one of the best or top video game producers. And he is really cool to work with because what he virtually does is he puts you in the sound booth, gives you a bottle of water and half an apple and locks the door. So as you come out when we finish. So you're kind of trapped in there. You have to do your work. You have to get it right. But video games are pretty much, you get used to it. Like the first one I did was hard. After that, they became better. What I found more difficult was doing motion capture because being an actor, I'm not used to being able to have your head or your body anywhere they ask. When in your brain, your mind's saying, hang on, all the people you're reacting to are over to your left. Why are you looking to your right? And I mean, I got myself into a whole kerfuddle on Duas X, Humankind Divided, Mankind Divided, the huge big one that I did. And I got myself into a real fix on the set doing the mocap, and the director asked me what was wrong, and I said, well, I'm confused. I'm looking to the right, and the people I'm talking to are to the left. Don't you think I should be looking to the left? And there was kind of silence, and then this voice came in my ear, and it said, it's a video game, dumb shit. We can have your head wherever we want it. And I went, of course. Right. got that. I got that. I'm cool. So it's one of those things where as an actor, you tend to be so used to doing things in a certain way. And then when you get to do something like that, where everything's positioned in a different way, your brain sort of telling you this is wrong, you can't be doing this. When in actuality, once again, because it's a video game and it's all animation, it doesn't matter. They can put your head wherever they want it. So yeah, but I love it. I love doing that because it's so much fun to get in a booth and just go insane for about 3 hours. I love doing it.
Awesome. And I do want to ask you because like with the because I have so many Power Ranger questions because and before I get into those Power Ranger questions, I just gotta say that you have so much accolades with Power Ranger, and I'll tell you why. Because uh Rancic is a very legendary character for the Power Ranger franchise, and I'll tell you why. Because he is the third male villain in the entire series. He's the third ever one. Like because there was Lord Zed and King Mondo, I believe, in the Zeo, and then you had Rancic, and Rancic is also the first ever evil male evil leader of the post Zordon era.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, he actually wasn't in the series when it was
oh,
originally put together. My daughter Nadira,
yes.
Nadira was the villain, and because they wanted to change it up and go from being having female villains because it didn't really work for them, they wanted to get a male villain. They wrote the part in, and so a
Oh,
lot of what they wrote was what I was doing. So once I got cast, you got the scripts became very much like who I was. So that's why it was so good. They were very clever about it.
and not only was Rancic like the first ever male villain of the post Zordon era, but there was a dynamic, chemistry that we never had before because Lord Zed and Rita were like obviously a married couple, but this time we had a father-daughter like, villain team, which was the first time ever in Power Rangers history, which was incredible. And I have to ask, like, what were your memories on working on Time Force?
I had a ball. I had 12 months of absolute hysterical fun. And even today, 20 odd years later, we are all still good friends. We all go to all the conventions together. Whenever there's a big convention, we have as many of us as, but the only one that we miss in most of the stuff is Nadira because she lives in Colorado. She's married. She's got a daughter.
Awesome.
But everybody else, because we're all in the LA area, we can all get together and do the conventions. She will come occasionally. She's been to one of the Time Force conventions with us, and she's a lot of fun when she comes. Still the same person, but I had fun because we started something which had never been done in in Power Rangers, and that was my relationship not only with my daughter but my relationship with the Time Force kids. Like I had a very strong relationship in the show with the Pink Ranger, with Aaron Cahill, and I
Mhm.
had a very strong relationship with
Blue Ranger?
the the Green Ranger,
Okay.
Michael, with Michael Capone, because my daughter falls in love with him. I have to be very nice to him. So they brought all these wonderful dynamics in that hadn't been done before. And they also did some amazing backstories for both of the human characters, like me and Jason's father. They did great backstories for us, which was also new for Power Rangers. So you got to know more about the characters than you normally did, and you saw them in what they were doing. And the relationships were really. I had a great relationship with Aaron. I'm sure that the kids started to think, is he and her, and is that because we were always having these little things together, like these little fights, and it was like me and Aaron every time we could, back again, like we always had that thing, but never anything mean. It was just kind of a fun thing. And at the end, she was the one that catches me, which is kind of a kind of a fun way too to have it. She puts the handcuffs on me. So I just loved it. I thought it was so much fun, and the kids were amazing. I mean, as for the whole series. Everybody was really, really cool. And it was 12 months that I will cherish for the rest of my life.
Did you have like favorite episodes? Because for me, my top three will always be Rancic Lives, Nadira's Dream Date, and Time for Life Speed because I love crossover episodes. Vernon? I think we have Vernon, can you hear me? Hmm. Just have to wait until he gets back on. Bernie, can you hear me?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I had a call come in. I just had to get rid of it. Sorry, bro.
No worries.
What was I talk? What were we talking about?
Oh, we were just talking about if you had like a specific favorite episode that you did of Time.
Well, my two or my favorite episodes. My favorite episode was the episode where we see how I get led into the trap and my face gets all burnt and I get blown up with Frax setting me up. That was one of my favorite, simply because of how it was written. It was written very adult, not kiddie style. I thought it was a really one of the best episodes I did. And the other one, of course, was the two-parter, the ones we shot at Universal Studios with the kids have doing all of their favorite film characters, and me running around like a Wes character trying to catch them all the time. I thought that movie magic was probably my favorite of the whole series.
You know what made me like realize? I mean, not realize, but you know what made me more of a fan of Rancic though was, I mean, I love Rancic Lives because you get like a full like understanding and detail about Rancic because it's like it's one of those like episodes that give like more of a backstory. I love Nadira's Dream Date because you get to see that despite being this ruthless badass warrior Rancic is, he deep down cares so much about his daughter that he is like a good father.
Yeah, that was one of the fun episodes where I wasn't allowed to kill him. I had to say, okay, you can go out and kick everybody's butt except for that one. We have to leave. And it was always done with gritted teeth, damn it. But no, I loved it. I love the relationship they built up between me and Madeira, which was fun. Because that plays out at the end when after I nearly kill her, that I suddenly realize what I'm doing and it's got to stop. So I don't think that would have worked if the relationship between us wasn't as strong as it was. So you did believe that I would do that because I had that much love for my daughter, and the relationship between me and the Rangers. Because a lot of the time, the things that I did were kind of done with a little bit of a smile because I enjoyed setting them up and then kicking their butts, but it never was really done with, let's go out and kill them all. So it was kind of, except at the start when I killed the Red Ranger, which was the first time in the history of it over here that a Red Ranger has been killed by the lead villain. And the funny thing about that was I was in Japan because my wife is Japanese American. So we're in Japan, and I was doing a big show over there, and they're doing an interview with me. And one of the questions was, what did you like most about being in the series? And I said, well, I loved it because, I'm one of those people who has a first for the whole thing. I got to kill a ranger. And they went, oh, we kill a ranger every week. And I went, oh, right. I thought I was special. Now I'm nobody. It was like that they kill them there all the time, I thought I was special because I killed one. But yeah, it was a fun thing. It was a kid's show that was very adult. That's how I like to put it.
Well, now what was because you worked like closely with Kate Sheldon. What was it like working with her? Like, where you were the father daughter on screen? Like, what was she like working with?
She was great. Katie was great. I loved her. Still do. I went to her wedding. I flew to Colorado to go to her wedding. I love her. She's she's a fun kid to be around. She was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun together while we were doing the show. And in fact, she used to rescue me out of the toilet all the time because my costume would get me caught in the door of the toilet, and she'd have to come and pull me out of the door of the toilet. So Kate became my wedgie little girl, pulling me out of being wedged into things. But no, she was so much fun. They all were. I mean, the whole cast and crew, everybody was so good and so good at what they did. It was just fun to be around. You know, you never. It wasn't one of those sets where you walked in at any time and went, oh, crap, I have to be here today. These people give me a pain in the ass. Not once in 12 months. Everybody had so much fun. Everybody loved each other. We were just a really close-knit family. And I think that was what made the show so good, was that we all got along so well.
Oh, okay. Now portraying Rancic though, do you have like this inspiration like to what you could like what leads you to like show this anger like any actors or like that would lead like that inspired you to like to portray that antagonist role?
Not really. I don't think any actors made me want to be that way. A lot of it comes down to, I was taught very early by George Miller how to break down a character, because Wes, was the first major role I ever did in my life, and I'd only done very little things before that. So I went into a major movie in the lead role with the star for the first thing I ever did. And that's terrifying when you think about it, because so much relies on you being able to pull it off. And George taught me a lot of how to break down a character and how to get inside the character and bring the character to life, but using your own emotional content to go to the places you want to go, not acting. He used to say, don't act, be. And that was his whole thing. You be the character. You don't act the character. If you act the character, it looks fake. And with Rancic, it was the same. I just broke Rancic down, and he had to have all those facets. He had to be fun. He had to be kind. He had to be evil. He had to be the kind of guy that you wanted to hiss at. But also, he had to be believable. You actually had to watch Rancic, even in a little kid show, and go, ooh, I don't want to meet him. Or it didn't work. And so that was what that's how I work in all the films I do, is I break down the character and try to figure out where all of his emotions are, and then make him layered. You know, he has to have 3 dimensions.
I understand. And I was like, and when you said like with kids, like you just have to like, you know, have to be like, oh, he's like terrifying. I will say this, and this is definitely gonna make you happy, but you definitely struck fear in me as a kid, as an 11-year-old. Like, because when Time Force debuted, it was a week after my birthday, and I watched Time Force. It was I think it was Force from the Future was the first episode, because my birthday is in January, and then a week later, the premiere of Time Force aired, and I looked at like Rancic, and I was like, oh, what, yikes! I was like, you definitely struck fear in me as an 11-year-old.
Yeah, they made it so that that first episode, you knew who he was. When I did the thing with the Red Ranger, you knew everything about me in 7 minutes. They just bought it and they put it right there. And from then on, you know, I had to build that character and make it work in a lot more dimensions than just being that one evil dude. He had to have a lot more dimensions. But right there in 7 minutes, you knew who that character was.
Now, what was the hardest part like of like during filming though? Like were the stunts hard?
Yeah, the hardest part was lifting my legs with those very heavy boots. Oh, sorry, mate. Did you cut out for a sec?
No, yeah, that's someone told me.
What I said was that the hardest part for me was lifting my legs up with those boots. They were very, very heavy. And the costume was so cumbersome. I mean, oh my God, I got caught in toilet doors. Every time I turned around, I hit somebody. And it took about an hour to put it on, to do up all the goddamn buckles and bits of leather. And the makeup took a little bit of getting used to because my one eye was always covered. And what happens, I don't know if you know anything about that. If you cover one eye for 8 hours, what happens is your brain has automatically decided that you can't see out of that eye. So now you're only seeing out of the other eye, which is what makes it so easy to work. Because I could never see out of my eye that was under that a shield that I had over my face. It was always covered. But at night, when they took my makeup off and they took that off my eye, I actually went blind because suddenly your brain went, and you couldn't see it for about probably a minute and a half. It was just totally, and the first time it happened, I freaked out. I was like, I thought I was actually blind. And they had to sort of say, no, Vernon, it'll come back. You'll be fine. Let it go for a second. And it's so scary. And then all my sight came back, of course. And I was like, what the hell? And I had to go through that every day for 12 months.
Wow. And how long was the recovery though?
No, it's like about 90 seconds and you're normal. It's what it is that your brain has to now realize that it has two eyes to see through. So all the information that's coming in has to come in the right way. So what it does is it shuts down for a second and it readjusts and sort of remodulates everything. And then it's like, oh, here we go. You're fine. Let's go. But it's as scary as crap if you're not used to having it done. But after the first couple of times, and because you get more and more used to it, it takes less and less time for your brain to recover. Because the more you do it, the more your brain understands, oh, he's going to take this thing off and we'll be fine again. And so the recovery towards the end was like 10 seconds, 15 seconds. I take it off and I just go, and then open my eyes and I was fine. But that first time, man, that's a doozy.
Now I got to get your opinion on something. How do you feel like in general about like crossovers? Because you were part of two of them. You were part of, Time for Life Speed, and then later on in Wild Force, you had the Wild Force team team up with the Time Force team.
Yeah. My only thing about that, I mean, I loved it. It was fun. I just hated the fact that I now was this good guy that was wearing Hawaiian shirts and being nice to everybody. It was like, couldn't I kill somebody? Really. But it was fun. And it's quite funny because they had a big reunion of where they brought back a lot of the villains and all of the Red Rangers and that. They did a big episode thing over in New Zealand, shooting a couple of years ago, big double episode. And I kind of rang up and said, am I going over? And they said, because I was trying to figure out because I was filming, and they said, actually, no. And I said, what? And they said, yeah, the problem is that we made you a good guy and we can't take you over and make you a bad guy. And I went, come on. So being the good guy kind of was a bit of a damper on a lot of things, which was like, I'd prefer to be the villain.
That was my next question. I was gonna say, did you prefer being the villain or the hero?
I know, the villain.
It's too much fun being the bad guy, right?
Yeah, it's much more fun.
Like, and also I noticed this too, like, Nadira and Rancic were the first ever villains to actually turn good since Power Rangers in Space, because Chikina was always bad, Viper was bad. I'm gonna ask a question about that one too. Like, what was it like working with like the Jennifer Viper, like in the Light Speed Rescue gang in the crossover?
She was fun. She was very, very nice lady, and we had a lot of fun doing that. All of them, I think because of who I am, people treat us a little differently. I mean, I wasn't a first-time actor. At that stage, I had done, over 150 films. So it was like, the guy is an established major actor. You can't sort of treat him like he's only done one thing in his life. So people tended to be a little more easy to get along with. There was no sort of being pompous about it. They were all like, hey, it's sort of cool. Whereas if you're all on the same, you can get a little bit of people going, oh, well, I'm better than you are. There wasn't many people could come up to me and say that. So it was, I think in that respect, it worked, that it just kept the playing field level. We were all there to have fun. And the minute I started playing around, of course, it was on. Everybody gave me heaps of crap, which I loved.
What was and what about because I know you did a couple like villain panels on Morphicons, right?
Yep.
What was it like doing those?
Um, I like it. We have fun doing that because normally it's the whole Power Range Time Force gang, and we get up there, and we usually spend 20 minutes annoying the hell out of Erin Cahill because poor Erin gets it from all of us. Because she was always, I think, the one question we got asked one day, which was so funny, was of all the people you've worked with on Power Rangers, and you know, it was for like the men and the women. And who in the cast would you like to go to bed with? And all of us turned around and pointed at Erin, and she got so embarrassed. It was so funny. It was just hysterical, and it wasn't like we planned it. It was just one of those things where we went, "Oh, her," like. So we all had so much fun. We just enjoyed ourselves and loved each other, and just had so much fun doing the show. So the more when we do the panels, they're just hysterical. It goes into the most ridiculous things.
I remember watching one of the, I think it was the 2016 panel. Like your react, I mean, my reaction was very similar to yours when this person asked this question. Like I think it was like, and it left you speechless. Which I was like, I was the same way. It was like, if Rancid could travel back in time, how come he didn't destroy the original Power Rangers?
Yeah.
And I was like, did he just ask that?
It was like,
Uh,
would be here. It's like, but it's funny because people get so wrapped up in what it is, but they don't get into the physics side of it, the reality of what you can and can't do. And yeah, like the butterfly effect. You know, if you go back in time and you step on a butterfly, it will ripple all the way through to now. They don't get that, so it's kind of funny that, and it's actually mentioned in the show if you think about it. When we come into the future, into the past, sorry, in the show, come back into the past. It's mentioned that we're back there, but we can't change anything, you know, and then we can't really kill the Rangers. We can fight the Rangers because I killed the Red Ranger in our own time period. So it didn't affect anything when we went back. That was why the only ones that came back were the team without the Red Ranger. Then, of course, they meet Jason, and then he becomes the new Red Ranger. So they actually were smart enough to do it as a real thing, not as some, you know, suddenly the Red Ranger appears. Oh, well, you see, he was killed there, but he's alive here. You know, what? That's a little bit weird. So yeah, they were smart about it, which is why I enjoyed doing it.
and I learned so much from these Morphicons because I always wanted to go to like one. Like the first thing, if I like, you know, like how they answer, like I think it's like a line of like people asking their questions.
Yep.
And the Village panel is my favorite one because I watched all of them. I watched the 2018 one. I watched, and where you and Patrick were the only like males, and like I think like you and Patrick like were jokingly saying, "Oh, there's more females than male villains." That says something, doesn't it?
We had all these female villains, like interesting. And that was the thing, was that was how I got my role, as I told you, was because Nadira was supposed to be the villain, and they just weren't getting the ratings because I guess the kids were not being able to accept a female as being the villain all the time. So that was why they came back and said, okay, we're going to make it a male, and they wrote the part for Rancic, which was really cool.
And I think like you know, like I really think Rancic and Nadir are really like the personalities are like inspired like future villains, like the late great Grant McFarlane who did Lothar, and Nadira's, you know, spratty personality was kind of similar. I mean, like her personality inspired what became Myra and Capri on Ninja Storm.
Yeah, no, she was a lot of fun to work with, and she had that character nailed.
Yes.
I mean, just the way she would do those little daddy and like get these little things. I just we
And
used
you're
to
like,
have fun. They'd shoot over my shoulder, and I would be in tears. I was laughing so much. at what she was doing. Because and that was what was so good about it, that everybody, even Erin had her character down. They all had a personality in their character, which they got so well, and that was just so perfect. They all blended, they all meshed. Everybody was somebody, and I just like even Frax and Gluto, even though they were people in suits, they had a great personality. Because with Frax in my Rancic Lives, like when Frax is doing his thing, you learn who he is. He was not Frax originally; he was this scientist, and so everybody had a moment, and everybody had a backstory to their character, which I thought was really, really fun. They made the series so much more real, if you get what I mean. It was not like a kid's cartoon. It was more real, like, oh, this is really fun. I got to watch it next week. I want to see what's happening. And I think that was what made it special. And, we were lucky. We became one of their top seasons. So I think that's wonderful to be in that.
I agree. And I really like, I'll tell you what really cracked me up, and I almost fell out of my chair like laughing, was like when you tried, like at the end of Nadira's dream date, when you try to set her on a date with one of your minions, and she goes, I may be desperate, but I'm not that desperate, and then she destroys the table and the date set.
Yes, yes. We had all those things were just like totally out of control.
But do you think? I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
No, I just said they were fun.
Oh, okay. No, like, do you think that episode of the Year Dream Date was that like an episode where, like, despite the fact that Rancic is this evil, power hungry person that wants to rule the world, that deep down, like, he has a heart where he cares about his daughter, and it makes it more sympathetic towards Rancic.
Yeah, I mean, it quite often. I mean, in actually the first episode when I escaped from the van, when Erin, the Pink Ranger's taking me to the prison, and Nadira sets up my rescue, and she comes up to me and she's standing in front of me and she's holding her finger up and she goes, "Daddy, the mean ranger broke my fingernail," and I'm like, "Oh, baby," and I'm doing this whole thing on her. I mean, that we set it up right early, the relationship between them. That as a father, his only concern was world domination and his daughter. It was that simple, like he didn't have a lot of things he really wanted to do in life. That was it. And I think that was what was so nice, that they didn't dilute the character by having 45 things that he was trying to do. He was just trying to take over the world, and the bloody Rangers were in his way and they had to go. And he wanted to make sure that his daughter was happy and got anything that she wanted, which included the dumbass Ranger. But hey.
No, but I was gonna ask you too, like, out of the two crossovers, Time for Life Speed and the Wild Force one, which was your favorite to do out of both of them?
They were both great to do, but I guess Lightspeed was probably the one that I would say was the funnest.
They did a really good job with the makeup on Viper, because like she was supposed to be dead, and like they made a really good job, because her eyes, like Viper's eyes, just scared me to death when I was watching the episode, because it looked so unhuman.
Yeah. No, they do. That's what I'd say. They did some stuff, or a lot of stuff, which really elevated the show. These shows, and took them up 2 or 3 notches from being just the normal kiddie show to being a young adult show. I have people now like you and people that are in their late 30s, early 40s that come up to me at conventions, when we had conventions. Of course, now we don't. Would come up to me and talk to me about it, because it had changed their way of looking at things. That suddenly they were like, it isn't so bad. Things can be better or things can be worse, but it isn't so bad. And and you go, oh crap, I was doing a little kid show that really affected people, and that you don't realize it until people start talking to you. we thought we were doing this fun kid show. But in retrospect, we were doing something which a lot of people got a lot out of and understood a lot of things. So, made their world a little happier.
I agree. And I just like just the show, like I find myself like as a kid, like when I was first watching the show, back when I was a kid, I find myself like, always like, oh, the good guys are good. Like, but as an adult, I find myself rooting more for the villains than the heroes.
Yeah, I would too, because the villains are the best.
Oh, absolutely. Just like when I would watch Space Jam, I didn't find myself rooting for the Looney Tunes. I would be finding myself rooting for the Monstars.
Yeah, I still, even though I play a lot of hero types now when I'm working, but still a lot of villains. But I always enjoy, even if I'm playing the film that I'm doing at the moment up here in Big Bear, is I'm playing an old grizzled Bigfoot hunter who gets beset upon by this team of people that are doing this reality TV series. So they want to follow me around to see if I can find a Bigfoot. And it's just all this laconic, fun dialogue backwards and forwards. Like one of them is only 5'1" tall, and I keep calling him short ass because he's so small. And every time he says something, I say, "Does your mother know you're here, little boy, or did you just escape out the window?" So it's all fun, even though I'm playing the good guy in his own way. He's still a little bit, you're not too sure, he could be the villain of the piece as well. So I love that. I enjoy not having to just play a straight, look at me. I'm the tall, dark, handsome man that gets all the women. I prefer to be, hey, look at me. I don't get anybody. I go around and kick ass. So that's kind of more fun.
I was gonna ask too, because like you're a tall man, right?
Yeah, 6'1".
Do you find that height is an advantage or a disadvantage on like working like on sets?
It's kind of interesting because now it's not so bad because a lot of the women and the male actors are at least 6 foot, if not a little over, and a lot of the women are 5'8", 5'9". But when I first started in this doing it, most of the men were around 5'8", and the women were around 5'4", 5'5". And so I was like this huge guy towering over everybody, which was a little bit difficult. And then every so often you would get to work with somebody like Arnold Schwarzenegger's 6 foot. So, you're looking at people that you're working with that are your height. But then when you're working with someone that's 5'10", 5'11", you're still 2 inches taller than them. You're sort of crouching all the time, so you don't overpower them with your height. And even in the Power Rangers, if you look at the cast, most of the girls were pretty tall.
Yes.
They're all 5'6", 5'7", so they're not little girls. And the guys were around 5'11", 6 foot sort of thing. So we had a pretty good cast in height. But way back when, for some reason, they cast all these tiny little people in films. I'm not sure why. But now it's much easier because people are a lot taller.
Oh, okay. And like I'm gonna say this too, like you absolutely nailed the villain role, like as Rancid, because when I see Rancid, like you're one of my favorite actors. Even going back to Mad Max and Commando and the Drawn Together movie, which you were absolutely amazing in. Like I think of that, and I think of like some of my other favorite actors, like Tim Curry or Gary Oldman. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, and it's cool because you know how like when you guys do like the American accent, and it's like so like evil, like the way you guys do it is just incredible because it's intimidating, it's scary, and it's believable.
It fits our character.
Absolutely, like
You mentioned two of my favorite actors, Gary Oldman. I love. I think he's just amazing. And Tim Curry, like I was telling you yesterday, is one of my favorite people to watch. But it's if you go back, I come from an era where, excuse me, I loved all of the 1950s, early 60s movies where they had it was mostly cops and robbers. You know, you had the bad guys and the good guys. You know, and in a lot of films, it was virtually the same actors would go from film to film. But it was what got me was not what the films were about. I used to watch the relationship between the actors because when actors enjoy working with each other, there's little things they do which make the characters more real. They're not quite so stilted. They're a little more relaxed and they do things. There's body language, just the way they look or the way they say something. And that's what I think as I grew older and I started to get into doing film, I remembered all of that, that if you want to make a character live, he has to relate to the people he's with. You can't sort of work with somebody and ignore them. And then when you're in front of the camera, do the character and expect it to work to be this wonderful relationship that people will go, oh, look at that. Isn't that amazing? It's more obvious that it's a little stilted, that you don't like that person and you just don't care. So I much prefer the way it was in a lot of those older movies where they all had fun and they were all doing their job. And I try to bring that on the set whenever I'm working. Because I'm a total dumbass anyway, you know, I have a lot of fun.
Now, was Power Rangers, was that filmed in New Zealand when you did Time
No,
Force?
it was the last one that was filmed here in Los Angeles.
Okay.
It went to New Zealand. The next season was in New Zealand. Yeah, we were the last one that was done here in America.
I see, because I remember Ninja Storm was filmed in New Zealand because a lot of the people that came out there were from New Zealand, like Cat Brown, Cat Divine, like every one of them were from New Zealand.
They're all, yeah, they're all now New Zealanders, and that, well, I mean, they do take over American actors to be in it as well, and English actors, but mostly they're and Australian actors too. There's a hell of a lot of them in New Zealand. But yeah, it went over there when we finished. The day we finished, they were packing up to go.
Oh, what was it? But what was it like filming in Los Angeles though? Because you filmed Los Angeles for Time Force, and then for Wild Force it was in New Zealand, right?
No, they were both here.
Oh, so okay.
They shot them. We finished, and they went back. I think a month or 6 weeks after we had finished, and shot and did all of that stuff. So I guess they either brought the cast here, or it was before they had the cast here doing something, and they did those. They worked it out, but we didn't go. No, they wouldn't take us to New Zealand. We'd take over the place and rule it.
Oh, okay. And when doing like the panels though, like the Morphicon because I actually I didn't go to Morphicon. I went to PowCon here in Brooklyn, and I got to meet like Rocky the Red Ranger. I met like Christopher Lee who did Andros. I met the guy that played Carlos, Roger Valesco, and Justin Nemo who played what's his name, Zane. And I'm also good friends with Amy Roll, who you met her before, right, Trakina?
Yep.
Like, did you have anyone from like those villain panels where you're like, that's my evil buddy right there?
Yeah, I kind of most unfortunately, because of there's only a certain amount of the evil people that were in Power Rangers that were not in a suit, you know, not in a rubber suit. So equating to them is a lot more difficult. But the ones that were like had a human look about them, I always sort of look at them and go, "Oh yeah, that's my evil twin." The others like, yeah, well, maybe not so much. But yeah, I liked it more that with my character, it didn't have the only thing I had was that mask on the side of my face, and then they did a whole episode explaining how I got it, and the arm. So yeah, the ones that don't have the suits on, I equate with more than the ones that do.
Oh, okay. Like, I see. Like, and even like Kate Sheldon too. Would you say would be your partner crime though, as far as Power Rangers? Like, like, because she was your daughter.
Oh yeah, Kate's a little tough ass. She'd definitely be my. If I was in the real world, she'd be. I think I'd be trying to hold her down. She was out there to kick everybody's butt. She was a lot of fun.
She's again. I love the dynamic because again, we never had Power Rangers where the villain was a father daughter. So this was really cool that they finally did this element. They did it later in Ninja Storm where it was the uncle and nieces, and then they did like this kind of this weird thing where like I mean not Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker thing, but in Ninja Storm they would do like I think the guy Grant McFarlane played both the villain and the sensei, and his niece and his nephews like they were the same part, but like it's like Lothar is like the uncle of like one of the Power Rangers. But they did it again too in Dino Thunder with Latham, like he was the main villain and his son was a Power Ranger.
Yeah, yeah. They kind of took it in a different direction to what we did. I think ours was the only one where the father and daughter were the villain team.
Oh, and it was a great like thing, and like it's like Frantic is a serious like he's like he's not goofy, he's very serious minded, but like when you have his daughter like Nadira, it's like that it brings out like the silliness in him, like because he's trying to do everything he can like to make sure his daughter's happy, whether it's like holding his fist in anger not to destroy one of the Power Rangers, or like the fact like in like Nadira's day secret day like dream date like where he says kill everyone but him.
Yeah, do not touch the Green Ranger. I know. Yeah, it was fun because I think that was one of the things that made the character so much fun and more human was that he was when he was doing his job, he was very much doing his job. When it came to his daughter, he was a father. He was this sort of, yeah, everything will be cool. What do you want, sweetheart? Oh, you need that. Oh, okay, daddy will get it for you. Um, and it was a whole different character. So, which made it work. If it had been the same character, it never would have worked. If he was still that gruff, tough, you never would have liked him because he was like, yeah, okay. But because they allowed the character to become softer and gentler and kind of all goofy around his daughter, you got to love him, even in your own silly way, which I think was one of the things that made the series so good was they actually allowed the characters to evolve into being more human than kind of I don't know alien, so to speak.
Well, in Wild Force, though, do you think that that there was definitely like some kind of like closure with the Rancid character? Like he may not be like the evil like guy that he was now, but he's still like a hard ass. Like he's overprotective of his daughter, right?
Yep, yep. No, I think because I mean, at least they were smart enough to start it off with me in jail and them coming to me and me going, screw you. I'm not interested, sort of thing. I'm happier here. And then they had to send my daughter to talk to me. It's like, fine, jeez. Um, so they at least started it off giving you that same thing that Rancic just didn't come out of jail or like, oh yeah, here I am, the hero. Whose butt do we kick? He came out still being Rancic, like, all right, I'll do it, but I'm not going to enjoy it. And then, of course, he does enjoy it.
I like the fact that it was like what they did like in that episode. It was like tension was like there was tension there between Rancic and both the Wild Force and the Time Force Rangers, but then in the end he wound up doing the right thing.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. It was still Rancic when they brought him on. He was still Rancic. He wasn't this sweetie, love you, big kisses, hugs. It was still Rancic. And then gradually he became more, okay, fine. Yeah, I understand. I see where I have to go. And he became more the person who you could rely on. And I think that's what made it work.
I think what was cool though too at the end were like one of the Wild Force Rangers, no, two of the Wild Force Rangers were trying to get a date with Nadira, and then You were like, nope, this is not going to happen. You guys, no way, stay back. And then you got the Green Ranger from Time Force to continue the relationship. So it was cool, like how they wind up becoming a couple after all.
Yes, eventually they do get together. And I think that was what was so nice. The thing about that episode was, if you look at a lot of the other crossover episodes, they really don't close any of the pieces that are sort of the little bits that you'd love to see finalized. They don't often do that, but fortunately in ours, they actually closed all of those things. Like everybody wanted to see the Green Ranger and the Deary get together. It was that whole thing, and they actually did it. And they wanted to see Rancic, still Rancic, but become more of a nice person, more able to understand the good side of everything. And they did that, but they didn't do it all bleh. They did it in a storyline that worked. And I think that's why it turned out to be such a good episode. And everybody walked away going, hey, that was cool. Now we know why.
I love the episode. I like the way it ended too, like where everyone's on a picnic. Though I thought it was cool because you don't really like have like series finales where like it ends like on some kind of like fun high note where like you have two teams. You have the Time Force team and you have the Wild Force team, and they're just having fun because they now just conquered their main villain on the Wild Force side, and now it's so cool to see that though.
Mm-hmm. Nope, I agree.
Like and even like for that episode though, like it's cool that they continued the continuity with like how Nadira felt with the Green Ranger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they played out all of the little bits that hadn't been closed out. They played it out and closed it out. Everybody knew that eventually, if there was any way, those two would get together. So they had to bring it full circle so that they did get together, and they needed to have that little bit where the other two wanted to have a date with her, and I was playing Rancic like, I don't think so, gentlemen. Like it had to have that. And then we had to bring him in. We had to close that out. And then we also had to have, when it came to it, that we need you to do this, Rancic. Are you going to do it? And he had a choice. He could go back to being evil, because remember, that was his two choices at that time.
True.
He could go back to being evil, or he could stay and become a good person. And he had a choice to make right there. And his daughter's with the Green Ranger looking at him, and he's kind of like, no, I'll help you. So he gives up that side of him, which was what he had been, to now move on. And I think that was a nice thing for kids, that, you don't always have to be the asshole. You can actually be a nice person as well.
But would you say though, like that it's like that episode also showed that Rancic still never forgot like the Green Ranger and Nadira's love for each other? Like it was so cool like how he did that. It was like, hey, back off, guys. She already has somebody. Like it's already established that she already has somebody like in Nadira's dream date.
Oh yeah, I think all through it, Rancic knew that eventually his daughter was going to end up with the Green. And I'm sure it was like every night he went home and went, why me? Why? But I mean, he had to accept it, that, and I think the only thing that mattered to him, as you said before, originally, the only two things that mattered was conquest and his daughter. After the conquest went, the only thing that mattered was his daughter. I mean, he still had that, and he nearly destroyed that. So that he's going to do everything in his power to keep that the way it is, and to give her whatever she needs, or to help her get what she wants, because that now is his prime focus. He's not focused on destroying the world and mankind and the bloody Rangers for why, I'm not sure. But anyway, that was gone. So now he's got another focus, his daughter. And I mean, that whole point, he knew that eventually they were going to get together. He just had to accept it.
Absolutely, and here's another good example of Rancic being an excellent father figure. Like, the fact that he would, after having her heart broken by the Green Ranger in that episode, he still tried his best to find her a date. Like at the end of the episode, even though it didn't go like the way it should, that Rancic thought it would. He still, in his heart, was still trying to find love for his daughter.
Yeah, he was still trying to make her happy
Yes,
with totally the wrong thing, but he was still trying to find a, do something to make her happy in his own way. And I mean, he was like a real parent. He was just a bumblefoot. He had no clue as to what she really wanted. He was just kind of, well, how about this? Will this help? No. Okay. Well, we'll figure something else out. He was being real, just like not having all the answers. And I think that's what too made the characters fun, is that they didn't always have all the answers. Sometimes they had to sort of go away and think about it. And I think that was Rancic. He didn't have all the answers, but gradually, as it played out, he did. He figured it out. He understood, and he knew where he had to go. And that makes him a redeemable character in the eyes of the kids, which in Power Rangers was very unusual for a villain to be redeemable.
I agree. Because usually they wind up getting either destroyed or they're getting some kind of consequences.
Yep.
And do you think though, Vernon, like like how they had like a Forever Red episode where all the Red Rangers? Do you think that they should do an episode called Forever Villain, where you have like all the villains from different series just joining forces just to try to annihilate everybody?
Yeah, they had. That was what I was telling you about. The one they did over in New Zealand, where they took all the Red Rangers, and they had all of them, and then they had a lot of the villains, but they wouldn't take me because I'm not a villain. I'm not classed as a villain anymore. I'm classed as a good guy. So because they changed my character from being the ultimate villain to being the nice guy. So now I'm looked at as that. So they would have to explain some way of getting me back, or do an episode before the end of our episode happened. Like when he was still Rancic. But it's funny because I get so many questions asked as, how did you make those swords come out of your back and your arm or your knee? It's like, what? Well, how did you pull those swords out? It's called trick photography. It really wasn't in my back. People were so convinced that I had all those things in my body that I could just bring out. It's like, So, when they start doing that, you know that they are so into the character. You've got to be very aware of what you're doing.
Now, when you're fighting the Rangers, though, like in the choreography, like when you're battling with the Rangers, whether it's Aaron or like in their costumes, is it them in the costumes or is it like stunt doubles?
Stunt doubles.
Okay, I just wasn't sure if it was actually them inside the costume.
No, in all the close-up stuff, it's them, and it also with me because my costume was so cumbersome. Originally, because I do stunt work, like that's where I started doing. Well, I just didn't start doing stunts. I just did everything because I liked it. But I got hurt twice. Once I ripped my knee, and the other time I twisted my ankle because the costume was so cumbersome. And so from then on, they started using a stunt guy to do the high kicks and different things. And then when it came to when you saw the face or you saw me turning into camera and doing all the close-up fighting, that was me doing it. And that was virtually so they had an actor for the next episode. They didn't have to go and film it in hospital or something. They just wanted to make sure they could keep me on my feet.
And who would win in a fight, Wes or Rancic?
I think they would both shake hands and go and have a beer and be good friends.
I can see that because they're both badasses and they both want the same thing.
Yep. I think they would go and plot how to overthrow the world together. If ever they met, I don't think it would be a fight. I think it would be a joining of brothers that they would get together and plot to take over the world.
And I will say this too. Because I had the creators of Join Together on a couple of interviews. I'll send you a link to it later. I had Matt Silverstein and Dave Jessler on. We were talking about the Join Together movie, and it was just so cool. When I found out that was you, I was like, this is so freaking cool. The guy I watched in Time Force is the same guy that gave me Scott, the angry director, and Join Together the movie.
Yeah, it was fun playing the boss and doing all those wonderful lines. They gave me some really fun stuff to say in that film. I've got to say, I had some of the best lines in the whole film, which
I
was fun.
what did you say, sir?
I just said it was fun.
Oh. Yeah, like that was fun. Like I mean, I loved like watching that movie. It's one of my favorites. I have it like I'm at my summer home right now, but I have the DVD in Brooklyn. Like it's one of my favorite movies of all time. Like because I love Join Together.
Yes, as I said, I used to watch the half-hour one when it was on Cartoon Network. But then it's one of those things where you watch something and you really enjoy it, and then eventually you get asked to do one of the main characters in the film. It's like, oh, this is just so cool. I'll be working with all these idiots. But you don't. Unfortunately, with doing animation and things, you work on your own. You're in a booth with two directors telling you how they want it, and then them doing all the other voices. You don't actually have all the characters in one room.
Now, when you do the voices, like, do they give you like this headset to wear or no?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, you have a. I always wear it on one ear because I hate having both my ears covered. So I've sort of got it on coddywampus. But they tell you what to do in your headset while you're working. They give you directions, and also because these days you can be doing the voiceover for a video game in California, and the producers can be in New York. The director, sorry, can be in New York or can be in Chicago or somewhere. So they're on your headset telling you what to do from wherever they are. I did a commercial for an Australian bank, and they had people in San Francisco, California, New York, and Sydney, Australia, all on my ear set at the same time. That was all the creative people, and they would come on in, hey Vernon, this is Bill from Melbourne or from Sydney. Do you think you can deliver that line like so and so? Oh yeah, sure. And then you'd have the creative people like, I need you to tighten it up because we've only actually got 12 seconds and you're doing it for 14. Can you tighten it up? Yeah, sure. So you have all these people in your earphones telling you what to do. So you got to be used to it. And with doing games, occasionally I have the same thing. If they're not in a different state, they're all out in the control room. There'll be four people in the control room.
Did you have a favorite line for Rancic, Wes, and Scott?
Well, for Wes, it is probably, well, for Wes, it would have to be "You can run, but you can't hide."
Oh, it's a classic.
And for Rancic, it would probably be "Back Again, Red Ranger." And for the other one, it would have to be, oh gosh, there was so many fun lines in that one. What was it? Oh, now I understand why they don't like you, Israel. You could never get anything right.
Classic. And he was like Scott is like the epitome of, like there's no like Rancic has like redeeming qualities. He's a good father. He wind up being good in the end, but Scott has no redeemable qualities. Like that, he just wanted to destroy everybody.
Yep, I know. And they were actually at one stage, I don't know whether they told you when you were interviewing, they were mumbling about doing a sequel. And I said, oh, great, you killed me in the first one. I can't come back in the sequel. And they said, oh, yeah, you're coming back as your brother. He's even worse. So it was so funny because, and it's cool at times with doing that stuff. You have so much fun with these people because they're all total lunatics. That's what makes it so good and so interesting. You work with people, my partner, Brian Martin, whom I work with on a lot of films, he's a total lunatic, but he's he's a lot of fun to work with, and I have a lot of fun working with him. He's the kind of person that says, "So, what do you want to do?" And I, "What? What do you want to do? How do you want to do it?" I don't know. You're the director. You tell me. Nah, you tell me. How do you want to do? So it's like I have to actually do a lot of work when I'm with him. Like, damn, can't you direct me? But yeah, I just enjoy myself. I enjoy my life. I love being an actor. I love being a director. I do a lot of directing. Um, and I think I've led a blessed life. I really, from a little kid that was born in the country, who never really envisioned being an actor in these wildest imaginings, to have got to where I've got to. I could never have imagined it as I said, in my wildest dreams. And I just feel very blessed that I can have this. And my greatest joy is being able to pay it forward with people, is to be able to help young actors that want to know about the business and want to know how to do things. That's kind of where I get the most joy out of it now. I love the films I'm offered because now people understand what I can do. So I get offered some amazing projects to do. And, I just look forward to the next one. Well, I'm doing the next one in about 3 hours, but I just look forward to, the next one after that.
That was very beautiful what you said, though. And like that was such a beautiful thing to say, Vernon. Before we conclude, I just want to because for this interview, I want to do two things. One, for 3 to 5 seconds, can we do like a smile and post so I can use as my frame grab, my thumbnail, like the main picture for the interview?
Do like a what?
Like a 3 to 5 second smile pose where we smile, because that way I can use that as a picture for as the profile.
You know that Wes never smiles, right?
I understand. Well, just do any pose you want.
Okay, I'll try. About the only thing I can never do as an actor is smile.
That's okay. It's just like a 3 to 5 second pose, because I'm going to use it as the main picture for the video.
Okay, I'll just do one now.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and also, Vernon, because this is an open forum, you can talk about anything right now before we conclude. You can endorse anything, you can plug anything, you can talk about anything you want.
Okay. Well, I've got a few things coming out. There's a short film I did, which is a prelude to a major film called Fear of the Woods, in which I play a bear hunter set in the 1940s in Alaska, which was shot in Sweden in the snow. It's already won one award. It won an award last night at the New York Film Festival for Best Director for the short, for the 20-minute short that it is, which I'm very proud of. Everybody that sees it's very proud of it. And I've got a few things coming out and a few things that are out at the moment. There's Trouble Is My Business, a film noir that I did. Landfall, a film I shot in Australia. I'm about to do a very, very heavy drama called Southern Hard, which is set in just at the end of the Civil War, about civil rights. And I'm shooting what am I shooting? Oh, I'm shooting Jack Be Nimble, which is I can't tell you what it is because I'm not allowed, but it's an hysterically fun movie. I've got Kill Giggles coming out, which is basically the reverse on Killer Clowns, or someone killing clowns. And then I've got Kringle Time, which is a really, really fun film that I shot in Washington, which is basically about a guy who's been in a kiddie's costume for 30 years doing a kids show, who's just about sick and tired of it, and dies on stage while he's working with the kids, and comes back as a ghost to drive the kid who takes over his role insane because he doesn't like him and he hates the fact that he's doing it. So that's really what's coming up. There's a lot of stuff out there. You know, I've got so many projects that if we weren't shut down at the moment, I would probably be shooting. But we're doing things slowly but surely. And I'm just, as I said, you know, I'm working with Brian doing stuff. I'm working with a few other actors. I've got a couple of projects to do in Australia, which when we can travel, Australia's shut down again, so we can't travel at the moment. Guy Pearce, I'm doing a film with. So as I said, I feel blessed. You know, man, I should be sitting on a beach with a tall blonde patting my fetid brow and giving me a very ice cold Coke to drink or something. And what am I doing? I'm running around playing villains in movies. So, you know, hey, we all have our way of living, and mine is enjoying myself as an actor.
Awesome. And before we conclude, I just want to say thank you for not only this interview, and because it was a total honor because you're one of my favorite actors, but I do want to thank you for the endless memories you gave me as an 11-year-old boy watching Power Rangers Time Force every week. Like Power Rangers was my childhood, and you were part, like as far as show wise, you were part of that childhood TV shows I would watch. So I just want to say thank you for memories, because here I am. I thought I would never see, like, I waited 20 years of it, so I actually get to speak, like, or meet or speak to you. And now, fast forward, years later, this has actually happened, which I'm totally honored for, because I've been a longtime fan of yours.
Thank you. It's much appreciated. I appreciate all of I often, I don't understand why people are so with what I do what I love. It's that simple. And when it affects people, I am very honored, and to see that people enjoy what I do. To me, as I said, the main thing for me is that if I do something and someone walks up to me and says, wow, that was so cool. And it's so funny because people will walk up and tell me about films that are very, very back, but people don't know a lot about them. They're kind of not mainstream. People will walk up and they'll say, oh man, I saw King of the Ants and you are amazing. And I'm like, what? You saw King of the Ants? And they, yeah, man. And I love that, because that means more to me than anything, is that people actually see things that I've done and enjoy them that weren't mainstream. So, and to have you say that you love the animated movie I did, that's really, really, really gets me here, dude. Believe me, right here, because not a lot of people really remark about that. And that was one of my funnest jobs. I really enjoyed it. And of course, Power Rangers, all the kids love it. All the young adults that have seen it love it. So it's nice to talk about. And the obvious Road Warrior Commando. But there are so many others that I've done that I love with a passion. You know, I did a little thing called Circle Man, which is a boxing movie a long, long time ago, about a retarded boxer, which I think is one of my best films. Probably 4 people have seen it in America because it never played here. It played all around the world except here. So I am always amazed when people say to me, oh, I saw that film and I loved it. So, you know, all I can say is my wife is Buddhist, which makes me a kind of Buddhist. And I just say that, you know, I have more affection for everybody, people like you that like what I do and take the time to spend with me. And from my heart to your heart, I send blessings, and I hope that everything that you desire and everything that you need is granted and given to you. And may you have a blessed and amazing life and be safe from here on. Okay?
Thank you, sir. And hopefully one day I get to interview Kate Sheldon too. Like, hopefully, because I was a big fan of both of you too.
I will contact Kate and see if I can arrange that for you. As I said, she doesn't do a lot, but let me get in touch with her and see what I can do for you.
And hopefully, like, one day we can do another interview, because again, it's a huge honor to speak to you, because childhood and teenage years, because I watched Join Together when I was a teenager, like, and just like talking to you now just means a lot to me. I thought I'd never see the day where I'm talking to Vernon Wells, like one of my favorite actors.
Well, it's my pleasure, and anytime you want to talk to me, just you know how to get hold of me now.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, my son.
Thank you, sir.
Stay safe.